Hello and welcome back to another episode of Flow with the Grow. I'm your host, Sophia, and this is a podcast for all things health, wellness, and self-growth. Today, I'm super excited because I brought back Rachel Prairie. I had her in a previous episode about a year ago. And today we talk more about trauma-informed weightlifting. We talk about what it is, what type of trauma, like what is trauma. We talk about how trauma-informed weightlifting as a coach or a trainer can be very beneficial, as well as just for anyone to know or to know about as they go about their day with their workouts. So even if you're not a coach or a trainer, you can definitely benefit from this episode, from what we talk about and from what Rachel shares. I also want to take a moment to talk about my new coaching opportunity. I am now taking one-on-one clients online, and in a nutshell, what it entails is individualized workouts, nutrition guidance, and more so focusing on small changes and behaviors, day-to-day behaviors and habits, and then mindset coaching and intentional check-ins every single week. So if you would like to know more about this, you can email flowwiththegrowpodcast@gmail.com, or you can also shoot me a message on Instagram. I'm at Sophia_Dawn41. We can talk more about it, talk more about your goals, see what you're looking for. So with that, let's jump into today's episode. If you liked what you heard on today's episode, you learned something, please take a screenshot, put it up on your stories, and tag me and Rachel. And I hope you enjoy and learn just as much as I did. And with that, let's get into the episode. Well, welcome back to Flow with the Grow.
Thank you. It's so good to see you. We're almost to the new year.
I know, which is so crazy that it's almost 2022. Like, I feel like just yesterday was almost 2021.
Yeah.
Insane.
Help.
I know, it's so crazy. It goes by so fast. So yeah, wow. So today we're going to talk about trauma-informed weightlifting. And first, can you just tell us more about maybe what it is? And so what is trauma-informed weightlifting for anyone who doesn't know what that is?
So I really say at this point, it's a methodology to apply, or even it's something that's already happening in the world and in our wellness communities that once you dig in and learn more about it, and you can see it, feel it, identify it, and almost kind of like it's an approach to almost like help you have the tools and resources to help people that are, which is just about everybody, carrying around some sort of trauma. And it's a nonprofit group. And they're doing tons of research in how to connect movement and mental health, and having it as another option or in conjunction with a wellness plan, that movement can help progress people into feeling better. So their kind of like overall philosophy or like tagline is do less harm than do good. So it's like simple, basic, I shouldn't say simple or basic, but if you bottom line it, it's really how do we approach each other in a way where we can be curious and understand and maybe, progress as a species into a little bit more loving place.
Nice. I love that. And so how did you get involved with that? Because I remember last time we talked, you had just heard about it, or you had just seen the certification, right? Like on Facebook or Instagram or something. So how did you get involved with it?
So I got introduced, actually, now that I think about it, I'm like getting goosebumps as I think about it, but I got introduced I work as a contractor with the Point retreats in northern Minnesota. So I help run women's wellness retreats. And the woman that owns it is a nurse, and she came across this group through her nursing network because they're trying to understand more of the role that trauma plays in their space too, in the medical space, right? So she came across this group and was like, man, this sounds like something Rachel would be super into. And so she connected us. So the workshop that we're hosting in February is actually, it's partnered with, it's the Point's Retreats, self-esteem brand. So all of our brands, and then of course, anyone else who wants to attend. and Trauma Informed Weightlifting Group, who is tied to a larger nonprofit that does this kind of work in different spaces too, in yoga and all sorts of other different ways to move your body.
Nice. That's super awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay, so when I hear the word trauma, can you define that if someone's listening and they're like, well, what is trauma? Or if someone questions, well, do I have trauma? So do I need this? But yeah, can you just talk more about trauma?
Yeah. So, like in kind of one sentence, it's something that happens to us without permission, without our permission. And so it can potentially create some psychological safety or unsafe issues. And it like manifests in all sorts of different ways, like ways you wouldn't even think of, whether physical, mental, emotional, things maybe like that you're carrying around that you didn't know. And you're like, man, I feel anxious right now. Like, why is that? What's going on here? And it's actually something that happened to you when you were 7, right? So like it kind of like transcends. So it's really about, I would say it's very personal, individualized. It's more about how the person personally identifies like what feels like trauma. And there's a huge, I wanted to pull up some of these stats because it's so crazy, especially, like 80% of us will go through some kind of trauma experience in our life. And here it is. We have these emotional behavior, physical, and cognitive responses. So these are like super massive. So when you think about anxiety, depression, fatigue, muscle pain, racing thoughts, inability to focus, crying, like things like that, like it appears in a lot of different ways. And a lot of different types of cultural factors are influenced in that too.
Okay. And so some of this trauma can happen and we don't even remember what happened. Like we might not even know what like our crying is from or why we feel anxious. Like we might not even remember or know of what the situation is, right?
Mm-hmm. But our body will give us reminders or signal us, right? Like, just, it's anything from like a loud noise to, seeing something violent, experiencing loss, situations that feel similar to the feeling that happened when the event happened, whether it's shame, lack of control. So like our bodies are so smart.
Yeah.
They're so clever because they're doing it because we're hardwired for protection, right? So when it starts to sense like, this feels like that thing, or this person reminds me of that thing, it's like, we got to protect, we got to create safety. And then with that, it comes out potentially in strange ways.
Yeah.
So you're crying in the grocery store and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah, I don't even know why I'm crying right now. Happens all the time, I feel like. That's crazy though, just how our bodies are just how they do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of it is thinking about how we process or even disassociate, which can actually be a good thing. It can help us move past difficult moments. But anytime we kind of like stand up to face or address or heal these parts, I'm careful like how I use the word heal lately, because it implies that like something's broken when really this is just the human experience, right? Like, again, we are wired this way for a reason. But things like weightlifting, where you can move some of this energy out and create resilience physically, can translate mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so the ability to tie like the healing process to movement is just like, that's the thing for trainers, right? For trainers and coaches, like, and we even get to like witness and see and feel those moments with people, which just like, that's why we do what we do. Like, it is. Yes. There she is.
Yeah. Yes. That's like the rewarding part of it too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And there's a lot of so Mark, who is a co-founder, is opening. He has his own training company now, but he's opening a place right outside of Minneapolis in Minnesota. And it's a beautiful space. He's trying to bring like kind of the outdoors inside, but he's also being really thoughtful. And I hadn't thought about this but hadn't really like connected it to this topic. But he's creating a safe, calm space for people who might have PTSD, who might have trouble socializing, who may be autistic, where light and sound, they're really sensitive. And so he's creating this unique space. I've never heard of anything like this, at least in the gym space, where people can come just as they are and get training with kind of these extra thoughtful pieces in mind around potential trauma. So it's just like, I think we even talked about this last time, that our industry, like I know we've been frustrated, but it feels like we're right on the edge of like this next step, right? Where everyone, not that everyone isn't welcome now, but like full inclusivity, safety, and like, I don't know, it feels like we're right on the edge of this new way to approach wellness. And Mark's space is just blew my mind.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's awesome that he's doing that. And I think because of that, more spaces will become, keep all of that in mind. And I totally agree that I feel like we're like on the edge of the next phase of wellness. And I feel like a lot more trainers and people are becoming more aware of not just working towards the physical results of like just losing weight, but what else can that do for us mentally and emotionally, and focusing on that versus just being stuck on like a weight loss goal, and at least that's what I'm trying to help other people too, to focus on is focusing on those aspects too. That's really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of clients come into and they have these physical goals, right? 30 pounds, boom. And it's our job, though, as the trainer and coach, would be to agree, yeah, we'll get you to 30 pounds. And whether you have that conversation up front or not, but like, there's also all these other things that come along with that. Like, what are they coming into the gym with? Like past failures, body dysmorphia, their relationship with food, their relationship with their body and other people. So it's just like, it just blows my mind that I feel like everyone needs a coach in some capacity. You have to have a partner who can like look at this from the outside and maybe see and feel things that you don't, and then like invite you to go there with them.
Yes, totally agree. And so talking more about trauma, or since you've learned more about the trauma-informed weightlifting and going through all that, has that changed your perspective at all about fitness and coaching and training and how you do things? Or was it more of like you were able to use that? I don't know what I'm trying to say, I guess. Like, did it change your perspective at all in health and fitness and working out? Or was it more of like something that you already kind of knew and agreed with, and then you found this and was like, yes, I need this to put this out there to be able to help other coaches with this?
Mm-hmm. I would say I was kind of on the final, or like on the edge, or like the last step of this process that I was going through and like healing myself. And the number one most important, impactful, powerful thing that I've ever done with my own health, wellness, fitness journey is figuring out how to regulate my nervous system. Hands down, the most important thing I've ever done for myself. And I was kind of right on the edge of like figuring it out, like cracking the code, where everything just started like coming together when I took this workshop. And it helped me almost like that final like push or confirmation that, yes, this is where you should be. This is how you should approach people. And the big takeaway for me was patience and coming from a place of calm and listening to what's not being said, and keep being curious and keep sitting with people. And you don't even, and like really that final piece that I needed, or a little like stamp of approval, like, oh, you arrived. Congratulations. Yeah. Because I spent most of 2020 not feeling good, just miserable. And it was like building, right? It wasn't just like COVID times, it was building. And I could not get out of like anger and just kind of like over people, like this kind of like buck you attitude, like figure out. And I didn't like that wasn't working. Like I didn't like that either.
Yeah.
So to kind of like work on all these things to figure out how to always come from a place of calm and understanding, now I can like recognize, see, feel, hear trauma when people come to me. It's easier. It's just, you just let things roll then, because you're like, man, clearly something happened here that you haven't addressed or haven't figured out. And that's fine. But like, I can't let it change my calm, move me from that.
Right. Yeah. Oh, amazing. Does the workshop teach people like how to then be patient and how to recognize maybe the past traumas or the things that other people have going on in their life?
I would say it goes through kind of like the what, why, how. And what's interesting is when I went through it, it was some of the most diverse, incredible group of people that I've come across. That was the other reason I'm like, holy shit, like here we are, we're on this edge that I thought was happening, but I wasn't sure. But some of the people, like it was all a broad spectrum, like nurses, doctors. There were some higher level police officers trying to figure out how to help their people go, because they have high level trauma in their work. It was there's a club in Salt Lake City that takes in immigrants and helps them socialize into American culture and understand movement. Like insane, like people are doing incredible work out there. So it's super broad, but it goes through, like if you were in the health, wellness, fitness space, or if you are someone yourself who has like experienced trauma, it will help you learn more about how it affects the body, mind, and spirit, and really give you like the framework to move forward. So I wouldn't say it drills down really deep, especially I think they did actually a great job, because as a trainer, like I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, right? Sometimes we feel like it, but we're not.
Yeah.
So it really like gets you as close to that line as possible without crossing into a place where trainers shouldn't go, right? And also looks at, dives into programming a little bit too. Like even how people like to train or don't like to train, or sensations or feelings, is connected to potentially what they've gone through, which I thought was so interesting. Like I have friends that love HIIT and spin class. Like they love that feeling of like just all out high stress, right? And when I think about like their past, I'm like, that actually makes sense. Like, because they're used to and comfortable being in this really high stress situation, loud music, they're uncomfortable, as opposed to other people who were like, you could never talk me into that. You know what I mean? So like even how people train or don't train is influenced by what they're bringing in. It's so interesting. You start connecting all the dots.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I was also going to ask how it incorporated programming, or if it did incorporate programming, like with certain workouts. And so does it help someone to come up with the workout for that person specifically?
Yeah. And you might even start with a plan too. And then if you have a new client, as you like build that relationship, you start to understand more of like what they need, as opposed to maybe what they want. Yeah. but Mariah said this incredible thing that really stuck with me. Like, we problem solve through movement. We move energy through movement. And so every time we approach a barbell or a weight, we're faced with a question, right? Like, can I do this? Is it too heavy? Are people going to make fun of me? Do I trust my coach? Like, so we think these simple acts, they happen, but potentially there's a lot of other things going on that our brain is trying to figure out and, direct us to an area where we're safe and successful. So it's really about, like, again, the programming, like matching potentially the right type of programming with people, and then also being curious and flexible along the way, because, movement is potentially uncomfortable. And so potentially uncomfortable. And some people, they might like that. And some people, it might completely trigger them. And so to just being able to start identify, like, what's really going on here is important.
Yeah, that just gave me goosebumps. Oh my gosh. And like to be able to be a coach and a trainer who has this perspective or this insight to help then like their client, and then the client can start to question those things. That's so powerful. I think that's like game changer.
For sure. It's really about just being an ally and a partner with your clients. And it's just like, training is such a unique service industry, right? Like, actually, we just talked about this at our NAF training conference. Like, what other service industry can you think of where you interact with the same people, potentially almost every day? Like, like maybe a coffee shop, maybe you remember somebody's favorite drink, but it's super unique. And it's not like we're just serving coffee either, right? Yeah. Like we're helping people potentially change or save their lives.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so is this something that would be for just trainers and coaches, or would anyone be able to take this workshop? Because it seems like anyone really could take this and benefit in some way, but is it geared towards trainers and coaches, but then other people could just come and take it?
It's really for anyone, I would say, that touches wellness. So like, I was so thrilled to see the number of nurses on the last workshop, because they're really trying to understand this world, right? Like, they recognize it, they see it happening, they know how movement helps their patients and people, or even potentially, preventative medicine, for lack of a better word. So it felt like it's a learning that can start bridging the gap between like all these different health, fitness, all these different types of communities, especially that experience trauma. There was a large, like I said, there was law enforcement, military, LGBTQA plus. Did I get them all? We speak a lot about equity, how, BIPOC populations experience more trauma than others. So it's very, it's super inclusive, and it felt like too very open and safe space to learn. So even if you're not sure or it sounds interesting, I would just sign up, take it, and see what you can get from it.
Yeah. And that makes me excited too, because of the fact that you said there's nurses and police officers. Like, then it's something that, like you said, it's kind of like a bridge, and it's not just a nurse or a doctor giving a prescription of like a pill, but really it's thinking about movement and how, that can help as a type of medicine too, and not just pushing off a medication or something.
Absolutely. And we really do form, I was thinking about, like, we form, like, going to a gym or having a coach or trainer, it's forming connections, but we're forming all these little like micro communities all over the place. And if we can integrate more of this into like these little pockets, then the reach goes further about how we experience trauma and how we help whole communities heal, not just like one client at a time, but like, if, especially if somebody's working on themselves and then they bring it back to a person and they bring it back to the person, like, now we're talking about like, to scale how we can really help people through weightlifting.
Yeah, for sure. That makes me, I want to look into it now, because that makes me excited. I remember when we talked about it too, it just made me so excited to learn more about this. And I think there's a book too. I think maybe you told me about the book.
Yes.
Weightlift, or I don't even remember the name. Is it just Trauma Informed Weightlifting?
They have like a recommended reading list. The one that I that really blew my mind was the body keeps score, because it was years, and I can't remember across how many years, but they specifically studied trauma, PTSD in particular, and brain trauma across like 30 years. And we don't have that kind of data yet. It's kind of like the first of its kind. And actually, Trauma-Informed Weightlifting works with they work with Harvard, they work with a college out of Boston, and they're doing these research projects. So seeing how, I can't remember, I think it was like a study of 150 people, where they looked at people that move through a mental health program just as is, and then another group that does the same program, but also adds movement. And I believe it was like 30% higher. I don't want to say faster, but like more sticky success point came out of the group that consistently moved their bodies, in addition to therapy and whatever other program that they had. Right. So I think it's going to pop up a lot more. I came across another new vendor of Anytime Fitness is Adaptive Training too, which is run by Alec. I can't remember his name, but very similar concepts where we're looking at inclusivity, like physicality. So like if you're an amputee or you're in a wheelchair, how do we train you? But then also like, how do we potentially move through trauma in that space too? So like, it's all kind of intersecting and coming together. Like I said, I feel like everyone's starting to like come online and be like, oh, like you're talking about this too. Oh, like you're into that too. Like, let's get together and figure this out for people.
Yeah, that's super cool. Amazing.
I can even too, I have a couple contacts that if you want to be part of like these different studies or the research projects, they're always looking for volunteers, or even clients. Like if you have clients that would be interested in volunteering too, even it's just like as simple as answering a questionnaire. But the more information we can gather to, I don't want to call it like make this legit because it's real and it's happening, but to like get it out and normalize it and talk about it, I think is super important.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Send me over anything that I could do for, I guess, just being more involved with that.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be awesome. I think that was pretty much all the questions I had, because all these questions I had written down basically already we talked about. Okay. I think that one of the, I guess, it sounds like if someone like a coach or a trainer were to go through this workshop, then it would help them. Like if there's a trainer who is also just focusing on their results, the client says they want to lose 30 pounds. And the trainer's like, okay, we'll just lose 30 pounds. And they're just taking that into consideration and not anything else. Do you feel like this workshop can help them change that mindset for them, so that way they focus more on not just the results, but like the practice and the kind of pivoting and bringing in this more unique service and experience for the client?
Yeah, for sure. Especially because there's kind of like 3 phases. So like you have someone start a program and there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens there. Physically, mentally, emotionally, right? And then once they're on their way, then it's like, how do I keep them going? And then how do I keep them going forever? So it's almost, it's similar to the difference between being a trainer and a coach. Like, I think being a personal trainer is important, but it only takes you so far. And our clients need a whole lot more than that. And potentially, like for some people, depending on where they're at, movement might not be the place to start even. Maybe it's sleep or nutrition, or like we're going to move for 10 minutes a day, but here's your actual priority. So it's like, how do we juggle their goal and what they're coming in with what we know like they also need, and then not overwhelm them and move them through a program that potentially they're able to maintain and keep going with forever. So I would say it helps you more quickly identify like what's really going on here. It's such a good reminder of staying curious, calm, having empathy, right? Because even trainers get burnt out too. So I would say it really helps look at the person as a whole, as opposed to like, these are the movements that we need to do. It's like, how can we connect movement with this mental health piece? Because it's happening whether or not we know about it or not. So you might as well learn about what's happening there to really like go the extra mile to support your clients.
Yeah, for sure. And I really like the perspective of maybe even not starting with movement, like you said, start with maybe sleep or water or I don't know, whatever it is. But that's a really good kind of new perspective to look at it too. And because I kind of was changing my perspective around working out and fitness and not having to like kill someone in a workouts. But even maybe starting with just walking versus teaching them movement patterns, but then also teaching different habits and, like you said, focusing on just sleep or something else first.
Yeah, because for sure. I mean, as a trainer, they're paying you for a service of movement.
Yeah.
But I would say you can be more thoughtful about the type of movement or how long or the intensity or the environment, right? Like, is it loud and bright and they're uncomfortable? And so maybe a better thing would be like training them virtually where they can be in their own home. So just like really thinking outside the box, like how to make this stick for someone and looking at them as a whole person.
Yeah. Yep. That's going to be a really powerful tool for trainers, coaches. So then how can someone learn more about the workshop if they're wanting to attend or learn more about it?
We have a sign-up page. It's also in my link tree on Instagram, but it is traumainformedweightlifting.com. And the information's on there, their research, the workshops, training. I think they have a blog on there. And then you can donate too, because they're a nonprofit and all their funding is going back into research, right? To keep this thing going.
Yeah. Yes. Cool. Yeah. I'll link that in the show notes too, so people can check that out. I feel like this was a really good introduction to it. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about it, or like the workshop or trauma-informed weightlifting?
I would say that whether or not you're, in the wellness space or you're just like a person working through this on your own, it's going to be super valuable information. And it might even just like, again, maybe you're on the edge, right? Like that's how I was. And you just need that last little push or confirmation. And also like a community of people that are curious about the same thing always feels good, right? Like it's such a safe place to ask questions and learn from each other. And you'll get all the resources too. There's, the slide deck, the recommended reading. And we even have, from my workshop, we have a little Slack channel too, to keep in touch. So
nice.
The cost, I can't remember, I think it's like $435. And if you can't get there in person, which will be in Minnesota at Self-Esteem Brands headquarters, we have the virtual option now too.
Yeah, so awesome. And that's in February?
Yep. Is it the 16th and 17th? It's 2 full days. So prepare yourself. I think we'll have lunch for sure the first day, 17th and 18th of February.
Okay.
And then we are also kind of toying with the idea of like after workshop activities, maybe like ice baths, or like I have my singing bowl, like some kind of meditations. We might kind of like, of course, the points retreat is coming. And so we might kind of make it like a retreat experience too, like a micro retreat or like a retreat. What are we calling it? Retreat social.
Nice. Awesome. And is there workshops every so often? Like, so after February, will there be other ones?
Yes. Keep checking back. I want to say, last month, I want to say maybe they're every other month. And this is the first one that will be in person or the hybrid option in a while, probably a year or two. But I do know that virtually, the thing is like accessibility is really important to this group too, like to share this knowledge. And so I think a lot of it will stay virtual just to keep the cost down for people too.
Okay. Yeah. Is it going to be the same cost in person and then virtual?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. There are two. Look at There are some scholarships available too. If you go to the website and kind of read through that, which is part of where the money goes to, is to help create these scholarships too.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on and talking about it. I learned a lot, that's for sure. And then I just think that's going to be really valuable for a lot of people in the next coming year and years. So yeah, thank you for all of that.
Absolutely. It was so good to see you. Happy New Year.
You too. Yeah, Happy New Year. See you later.
Yeah.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Flow with the Grow. I'll see you next week for your daily dose of positivity and growth.